had family members who had served in former wars. I was in the cadets during my time in high school. I cared deeply about the military in my country. I believed what I was told about Afghanistan and later Iraq. I had no ideas to question my leaders. I joined the U.S. Army a few months after the invasion of Iraq, as soon as I was old enough to join. It was within 2 weeks after my 17th birthday, in September of 2003. My mother had to sign my permission to enter. After high school, I attended my initial Army training, which was infantry and parachute training, and I came back to my home in New Jersey and worked as a recruiter for a period of time. As time went on, the evident mistakes over the Iraq War were ever present. Each month presented new lies and atrocities, along with the reality that we screwed up. What now? Even then, the U.S. was part of a good war in Afghanistan, right? After my recruiting duty and a brief period in college under the tuition assistance program, I went into the 82nd Airborne Division as a parachute infantryman in 2006. By mid-2006, my newfound recon infantry unit was being prepped for a 15-month deployment to Afghanistan. During this time, the situation in Iraq was utterly deteriorating, and U.S. forces were losing more people each week than the week presiding. My unit, however, took a bit of solace in the fact that we were going to fight the better war, if there is such a thing. Time stopped for me in January of 2007 when I, along with my unit, deployed to the tribal regions of Afghanistan along the Afghan-Pakistani border, and we spent 15 months as part of the ground war. I returned from Afghanistan 4 years ago this April 8th to be precise. What I had witnessed during the segment of my missing time propelled me to eventually leave the U.S. military behind in a sergeant position, and as a person who looked forward to military service my whole life, I left it behind. During my missing year, I was part of extreme missions, 30 to 40 days on end, seek and destroy, uncovering the enemy by random fire, or recon by fire as we would call it, and I'm ashamed to say we would also call it come out wherever you are, firing into mountainsides just to see if you would receive fire. Our presence in most areas was only for 30 days or so before there was a new mission to take part in somewhere elsewhere. We stayed in an area long enough to stir it up and cause tension, and then eventually left. By the time the war got serious to my unit, we were already there for 7 months. To spare you a side tangent, I've known 6 men to be taken from the world during this war, but the losses attributed on the Afghan side far more outweigh our losses. We had the ability to always cry foul or claim that we were scared for our lives, even when men would shoot at cars out of fear, or when rounds landed in the wrong backyards. We were, after all, being commanded by the same people who had made devious errors in the U.S. war with Iraq. What I found in my service was an escalation of war powers. I didn't find an easy win like the news would tell you. I didn't find us promoting democracy or human rights. With each battle, attack, or screw-up, we saw more reasons for the U.S. and NATO forces to get mad about being forced into an action, and our anger showed itself in its worst forms during our retaliation periods. I found a situation where both the occupier and the occupied cannot justify the foreign presence. What I found was a war that was guaranteed to do only one thing: escalate. Each year we fight, we rile up more and more people with the unlimited resources of bullets, armor, Humvees, and bombs, along with Dairy Queen and Subway restaurants at all the largest air bases in Afghanistan. This war was about money and sustainment. There's too much money to be made. I left that system 4 years ago, and even though I've been scared to speak out, given how the U.S. government treats whistleblowers, there's a time where you cannot be silent anymore. For a system that demonizes whistleblowing, but allows those guilty of war crimes to walk free, I say, damn you. Yeah. Bradley Manning sat in solitary confinement and is now awaiting a possible lifelong prison sentence, while the U.S. Marine Corps sergeant found guilty in the Haditha murders of Iraq walks free. I can no longer be silent on the hypocritical system. Everything my unit did during 2007 to 2008 proved to me that we weren't in there to win it. We were there for a body count. That was the only way for us to claim victory. I cannot tell you all how many bags of rice, beans, clothing, cases of water, etc. were not handed out to the local populace unless we got too gun happy or we screwed up and shot the wrong thing. We weren't there winning hearts and minds. It was all payback. And that was when there was only 20,000 NATO soldiers in Afghanistan. The men who led me were the ones who got away with some extreme stuff in Iraq, so they knew exactly how to fill out paperwork after an action. Many of them are family men of their own and only trying to guarantee having a career to support their own families, so they naturally fly under the radar and try to guarantee their position. But everything I experienced in the past doesn't surprise me when I hear of horrific tales nowadays. From the kill team, to the urination, to the drone bombings, to the reckless murders from Iraq to Afghanistan, it's all the same. Even then, I wasn't even close to the horrible reality of the situation we heard about yesterday. But to me, it proves that the escalation of war has continued and will continue until we all stand up against this nonsense international venture. The Afghans should have their right to determine their destiny. Yeah. There are several war resistors in the crowd today who, like myself, when we recognized something was horribly wrong, we did what we needed to in order to distance ourselves from what we knew would only escalate in the future and would ultimately be a horrible mistake. Our only question is who will be the last American, last international soldier, last Afghan to die recklessly in this conflict. We knew that we had no answer to the drastic situations in front of us, and all we could do is not take part in it anymore. The anti-war movement since pre-Afghanistan and pre-Iraq, all the way up to the present day, has said the same thing. War is not the answer. War destroys all of those involved until there is no recourse other than to abandon all hope. All of us who tote the message that war is wrong is correct, and we have been correct since the beginning. I've seen enough by my own eyes as a former believer in the necessity of war, enough to change my entire opinion. We've all seen the errors of this occupation, and the worst part is, as long as people on both sides justify it, we are only going to see a rise in sentiment and violence. I served as part of a well-armed and well-armored force of 20,000 4 years ago. There are now over 100,000 military serving in Afghanistan today. The atrocities will continue while we continue to deploy people who cannot comprehend their presence in a foreign land, while paying no mind to the population therein. Out of vengeance and retribution alone, we will continue to see these nonsense acts of horror. What happened in the last couple of days by a rogue unit is nothing different than any of the other horrible things we've seen in the recent past. It is the pointless escalation of war to no resolve. We will reap what we sow. I'm glad to not be part of it anymore, but I weep for those lost within the nonsense on all sides. There's no way to bring anyone lost back, but there is a way to end this war, and that's by uniting together and demanding it ends. War is a disease. I cannot express enough regret for having been part of it and waging war upon a proud, innocent people overseas. And to the U.S. consulate, I tell you this. I'm damn proud of my heritage as an American, but I'm damn ashamed to have worn this battle flag while I fought a proud peasant people overseas. I experienced the lies firsthand, and I did something about it and left. I worked for a backward system, and I don't work for you anymore. I've known great men who've perished in this war that might be doing a lot to unite us all right now. I'm sick of men sitting around in air-conditioned rooms figuring out new ways for young men to die in. Trust me, I have a lot of atonement to seek in life, but being quiet doesn't justify being quiet. I'm glad to help the combat veterans of the U.S. wake up and leave the system, just as much as I'm proud to reconcile with those who I've wronged so much. All these awards I've earned out of sheer ignorance. I can't sit by and watch this insanity unravel any longer. War crimes need to be punished. No justice, no peace. As a former general once said, I hate war only as a soldier who has lived it can. Only as one who has seen its brutality, its futility, its stupidity. End this war. How many more? Yeah! Thank you.